Hi guys, welcome to the Crafting Sparrow podcast. My name is Amanda, and I am the creator of this channel, and basically this is a show and tell, if you're new here, of my crafting endeavors for the month. I do one podcast a month and show you things like knitting, which is the majority of it, sometimes crochet or sewing or cross stitch, basically anything fiber arts related. I come on here and I just talk to you guys about what I've been working on. So if you're new, welcome. If you are returning, thank you for returning. And let's get started. Last month I did kind of a special episode for Christmas, and I showed projects that were solely for that episode, if that makes sense. I cast them on and gifted them for Christmas. So this month it's kind of a let's pick up from where we started in November, and so yeah, you're gonna see some of the works in progress that I showed you in November of 2022 and some new projects as well. So get cozy and let's get started. So, let's start with what I'm wearing. You guys may have seen this one already. It's the Koyamae pullover by Joanna Ang. I made this a couple months ago, and it's been recently one of my go-to things to throw on at the house because it's so soft. I made it out of Drops Air, I believe, and it's so soft. I can't not grab for it. And it's got this beautiful cable work on it. And some cable work down here too. I'm not going to talk about this too much because I actually have one also as a work in progress. So basically I'm making that one the same as I'm making this one, but with different yarns. So I just wanted to mention that that is what I'm wearing, and it's been getting a lot of wear for me. So do recommend the pattern. So yeah, let's get on to our finished objects now. The first one I'm going to talk about is actually a reoccurring finished object. It's my vest number 8. And so I will share with you guys, if you're new, you may not know the story for this vest. I have made it entirely already before, and I didn't like the way it fit. Basically, my gauge is always a little bit off. I'm a very loose knitter. And so I did swatch for it the first time, but I didn't wet block it, and it's cabled all over. So lesson learned, blocking really matters for your gauge swatch, especially when there's cabling, or ribbing I guess would matter too. So I made the whole thing and I tried it on, and it was just really just baggy. I'll insert a video I took of me wearing it. And I'll probably put that video on in comparison with me actually trying it on in a second here. But yeah, you'll see what I'm talking about when it's on screen. It was just way too baggy, and every time I looked at it, I was just kind of like, my heart dropped a little bit because I really like the yarn combination and just the look of it. It made me really happy, but it wasn't fitting right, and that really just bummed me out. And so I was just like, you know what? The yarn is too special for me. It's Knitting for Olive. I'll get into that in a second. The yarn is too special for me, and I've been really wanting a vest that I actually want to wear. So I'm just going to rip it out and try it again in a smaller size. So that's what I did. I talked about it before when the second version was a work in progress in November, but basically I ripped it out, and there is mohair in it, so it wasn't as bad as I assumed it would be. Ripping out mohair has a really bad reputation. A lot of people seem to think that it's basically impossible, and that's what I was expecting, but it wasn't too bad. You just had to be really patient with it and gentle. I didn't like put it in the freezer or anything like that. That's something that I saw was recommended to make ripping out mohair strands easier, was to put it in the freezer for a while, but I just tried it without. It was fine. There were a few places where I had to cut it. And this has a lot of like joins, a lot more joins than the first attempt, so long story short, I remade it, and I'm happy I did because I really like the way it fits now. So I will say the yarn I used is Knitting for Olive, and it is their Merino fingering base in the colorway Marzipan, and then the Mohair is their soft silk Mohair, is that what it's called? It's their Mohair base, and the colorway was Wheat. Beautiful combination. I mentioned before that it gives off like almost like a gold glow to it because of the wheat colorway, and that brings me a lot of joy. You can't see it from this far away, but if you look up to it really closely, you can see the silk strands from the Mohair base, and it's like glows gold. I like it a lot. But my needles, I didn't change the needle size when I picked when I redid it. I stuck to the same needle size since I knew what my gauge was. I had a whole garment made from that needle size, and I blocked it several times. And so I knew what the gauge was with that needle. I just went down to the smallest size when I remade it. So my needles are 3.5 millimeters, and keep in mind, really loose knitter, so that's not what's recommended. That's what I had to use. And the first time I made it, I made a medium, and then I made the extra small the second time. So this is the extra small. And let me try it on for you. I usually don't have to wear a shirt underneath this, but I did today so that I can try on my vest for you guys and one of my works in progress you'll see in a minute. I absolutely adore the way that this yarn feels together, held together. It's so luxurious. So here it is. So now I'll insert a video of me trying it on before I change the size. And yeah, I like the way it fits a lot better. It's less baggy. There's a much more reasonable amount of room under the arm. And I feel like I can wear a tight shirt underneath it. It looks cute. I can wear a little bit of a thicker shirt underneath it, and I think it would still look really cute. I haven't tried that yet, but I'm fairly certain I can like even put a t-shirt under this and it'll look cute. Basically, it's just a lot more easy to put into my wardrobe, I guess I could say, now with the size that it is than before. I just felt like really, I don't want to say frumpy because I like baggy stuff. It just wasn't the vibe for that particular piece of garment for this one. So yeah, I like it. Oh, and the pattern's by My Favorite Things Knitwear, but you probably would have assumed that. She has the sweater number 5, I think, that is basically just the sweater version of this cable detail. And then I will mention again my button choice is, and I'll try and get, well, you can kind of see what I'm talking about. It's like this really pretty, shiny, swirly, like bubbly detail to it. I don't know, I like these buttons a lot. I mentioned before that I had bought these buttons for this particular vest for the first time that I made it from a spinnery in Gatlinburg, Tennessee, when my husband and I went up there for our anniversary trip in the end of October. So if you want to see a close-up of them, I think I did show a close-up of them in that video, which was in October or November's podcast. I'll find it and then I'll link the video up here. But yeah. So like I said, I made this a smaller size, and I also noticed the length was too long for my liking as well. So I think I even cut out 2 cable repeats, but everything else was to pattern for the extra small size, and I like it a lot. I'm hitting things. Okay. I think I'm gonna put my Koyamae back on, so 1 second. So cuddly. I need to remember to take more water sips as I'm recording because I get talking really fast. And then I can't keep up my breath. I keep running out of breath. So, okay, breathe, drink some water. So, that was my first finished object, and my next one is for the advent calendar the Yarn Advent calendar that I bought for this past holiday season. And it is from River Kelly, who is the dyer behind AknittersHomestead. Very wonderful, lovely lady. And she made some beautiful mini skeins for the 2022 holiday season. And it's the one that has 24 mini skeins and then one full skein on Christmas. I know some people have winter dyeing yarn advents that actually go for the whole year. I think Kelsey from A Knitting Nakabi, I'm pretty sure that she does one that's through to New Year's, so I wanted to specify that this one was specifically up till Christmas. And I decided to go ahead and pick out a pattern for it, and so that I could actually use the yarn minis as I was going through the holiday season, so that they can be a lot of memory entwined with the knitting project. If you've been here a while, you know that I like to talk about that. I like to talk about how the things that I make are not just useful, but I think back about what I was doing, what was going on while I'm making my things. So I picked out the pattern Quadrophenia. I will have I usually write down the person's name and what page they're on in my journal, but I did not this time. So I'll have the name and then the designer's name of patterns in the screen below, but let me look. The Quadrophenia is by Kay Jones. That is the designer. And I used 2.25 millimeter needles to make it, which are my Koigu interchangeables. And basically all I did was, you can't read that, I know, but I wrote down the name for each skein because they were really cute. I won't bother reading them all out because there's so many of them, but they're really charming, like hot winter Christmassy related. And the Quadrophenia, and I'll show it to you now, is a blanket that is split into 4 triangles. And so, and I knit it in order. So the first one was, sorry, I showed you the back, I think. The only difference is that you can see the slip stitches and the seaming from the back, but it's basically the same thing. This was the first day, and then day 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and that was it for that section. You would bind off on this edge, and then you would put that triangle aside, and then you would make the next one, which was this one. That, and then you put that triangle aside, and I'm looking over here because that's where I can see myself, making sure it's all in frame. And this is the next section. And then this was the last one. Some pretty reds and pinks in that one. So yeah, and the pattern talked about making sure that you have the correct amount of yarn for each triangle. So basically you would calculate how many rows for each stripe on the first triangle, and you would follow that amount of rows for all the other triangles, because you assume that if all the skeins are the same amount, then you'll have enough yarn to make those row counts every single time. And that sounds like it would work, but it being a person who handmade these yarn skeins, there's some discrepancy there for how much yarn is exactly in these mini skeins. Some of them had a little bit, well, I didn't weigh every single one of them, but I'm assuming that some of them had a little bit less meterage and some of them had even more meterage than the first 6 colors that I knit up. So what ended up happening is quite a few of the stripes I ended up being short on some yarn, and some of them I ended up having way more than I needed. So if it was a perfect 20 exact grams for each skein, that idea would have worked out really well. But River is a person. Like, she can't be exact like that. I wouldn't want her to worry about that I wouldn't want anybody to worry about that. But everything turned out fine. Sometimes I ran out of yarn though, and I would have to go ahead and start the next one and hope that it was one that was a little bit more. And it ended up working out fine. I still had some that had leftover yardage, and one of the most easy to spot skeins that had too little amount of yardage was this last stripe here, because the bind off, you can clearly see it's like a purpley color compared to this like mint greenish color, and so it definitely is different, but honestly it's one of my favorite things to look at on this blanket. I like the contrast that gets put there. So I'm not mad. It adds personality to it. And each stripe has like a transition repeat where you do like a slip stitch every other stitch. And so it kind of makes the next color like bleed into it a little bit. I'm sure if you're familiar with slip stitches, you know what I'm talking about, because you wouldn't knit the slip stitch until the next repeat. And so that past stripe's color kind of goes up a little bit into the new stripe. And that's what it was going for. But some of them do not have that because I ran out of yarn. And what I did is I kept the exact number of rows for that stripe, even though it's a different yarn. You can't really tell. Hold on. You can't really tell because it was never more than like the very last row I had to make up some yardage, or the row before. Like, it's never more than a row and a half that I'm missing colors, missing yardage for a color, and it still looks like all of the stripes meet up pretty squarely on the seam. So you wouldn't have even noticed if I hadn't said anything. You can see pretty nicely on this one, specifically the slip stitch detail. It looks really nice. And I realize that the colors are like wild and everywhere and not my typical color palette, but it brings me so much joy looking at it. My original plan for this was to fold it in half. Here, I'll show you what I was planning on doing. I thought that it wasn't going to quite be enough for a blanket. So I was like, if it's not, I'll just fold it in half and make it like a shawl. So like this, like a half and half triangle wrap, which is still cute. You know, it's very warm. I mean, it's nice. It's a nice shawl, scarf thing, but it ended up being fairly large after I blocked it. It's really nice to just on my lap while I'm sitting at my desk here and knitting or whatever I'm doing at the time. It's kind of the perfect like lap blanket. The seaming was really fun actually, because of the way that it was designed. At the end it has yarn overs every other row on each side. That's how you get the triangle shape. It's a pretty basic technique for triangle shaped things, doing a yarn over on either side every other row. And so the pattern actually came with some video links on how to seam it, and it's just mattress stitch, but because of the yarn overs it was really easy to tell where to insert my needle. And I've always been a little bit hesitant about mattress stitching and basically any other form of seaming. It's never turned out perfect for me, but this for some reason just worked. It was really fun and really satisfying to just zip the thread up as I was moving along, and it just created this like bump on the back, and that's honestly kind of a cute look. I kind of like that. You can kind of see there. So yeah, lovely pattern and lovely yarn advent. Ooh, I think I got hair in my eyelashes. Yeah. So I do recommend this pattern for any Advent skeins. Just kind of be wary of how much you're weighing on the first triangle. If it's maybe a skein that had a little bit more than 20 grams, don't just assume that all the other mini skeins that you have are going to be exactly that amount over the 20 grams. Yeah. I like it. It's actually, I thought about it the other day, this is my first knitted blanket. I have one in the works. It's the beekeeper's quilt. It's the one with like a, excuse my language, shit ton of hexie puffs. And that will be going on for probably several years, so definitely not finished. So this is my first knitted blanket that I've finished. I have a scrappy crocheted blanket that has been done for a while now, and it's actually sitting on my couch over there, but that's crochet. This is knitted. So yeah, that's all I have to say about my Quadrophenia blanket, and I love it. Very happy. Okay, so my last finished object is actually not with me right now. In November, I mentioned some of my future plans was to make my husband a pair of fingerless gloves that he requested. And I did. I made him some, but they're at his office, so I can't show them to you today. But I'm going to try and remember to ask him to grab them from his office tomorrow at work, and I will, hopefully if that happens, I will insert a video of him wearing them over here. So there they are, and the pattern was the Koigu fingerless gloves by Astrante. I guess I'm looking at the pattern on my screen up here. I don't think I actually wrote it down in my journal because they were really fast to make. I used my, oh crap, what are they? Hold on. Again, I didn't write it down in a journal, so I don't think I did. Did I? No, I didn't. So the yarn, or the needles that I used for it are these two. And this is the Haya 9-inch circulars, which are, where's the size on this? Crap. Did they rub off? I think they're 1.75 millimeters. They're the smaller ones. And then I have the Koigu 9-inch circulars, which are, these did not rub off. This is 2.25 millimeters. So basically what I did was for the cuffs, the cuff part of the fingerless gloves, I did the 1.75 millimeter. And then for the rest of it, I did 2.25 millimeter. And they fit him perfectly. I think I made the smaller size. I should have wrote notes down, but here I am. Basically, every time I talk about sizing, just assume that I assumed I would be too loose of a knitter to meet gauge. Because I think that these gloves were made for smaller hands. Like, I think the size I picked out would be closer to my size, and my husband's hands are a lot larger than mine, and they fit him fine. So, I don't know, I really like the pattern. They worked out perfectly for him. I used Knitpicks palette in a dark, I don't think I have, hold on, let me find it. Yeah, here it is. This is the yarn I used. It's Knitpicks palette. I don't remember the color, but it's like one of their heathery black colors. I used almost, I think you could make them in a single 100, or is this 50 gram ball? I am not on it today, guys. One ball of Knitpicks palette, whether that's 50 grams, 100 grams, I don't know. But that I made them with some leftover Knitpicks palette, so I don't know exactly how many grams I started out with, but I just barely was out of yarn for that amount, so I had to break into an unused one, and I barely used any of this. So I'm assuming that you could make a pair of fingerless gloves with just one ball of this. That's what I would assume. Let's see if I can make this shot. I did not. I failed. Okay. Glad you guys couldn't see that. Yeah, so I think that there was something that I think I would have changed about those gloves. I think that I would have not increased, I think because after the ribbing you increase some for like going from this to this. There's just a little bit extra fabric on the actual hand part on my husband's fingerless gloves, so maybe if I just didn't increase it would work out fine. But the actual like finger part was not as bad as I thought it would be. I also wanted to mention, when I asked you guys for recommendations on fingerless gloves, somebody had the genius idea of just like look up just a regular gloves pattern and then bind off on the fingers early. I'm like, oh my god, that's so genius. Why did I not think of that? And that's what I would have done, but I actually did find the Koigu, I'm probably saying that wrong, but the fingerless gloves that I ended up making. I found those and it was already written for you and it was free, so might as well. So yeah, that is that. And now I guess we're gonna go into our whips. So I officially have a project that I have put to the side. I plan on picking up at some point again, but it's a back burner project, and I don't have those very often unless it's a scrappy thing, and this is not a scrappy thing. You guys saw it back in November. It's my dark moon wrap, and I can pull it out so that if you're new here, you'll be able to see it. It's really pretty, but I just haven't been in a shawl mood, I guess. I literally haven't touched this thing in probably a month and a half. And it's on way too small of needles because I had to borrow the cable for another project, but that's the gist of it right there. It's mosaic on these sections, and then it's sand stitch in between. And it's really pretty, and I really like making it. I just wasn't in a shawl mood, so it got put in the back burner. And I do want to pick this back up once I finish some of my other whips that I'm going to show you here today. So yeah, I can briefly tell you what yarn it is and my needle size if you are curious. It is the 2.5 millimeter. I'm using my Koigus, and the yarn is Pearl Soho Good Wool for the purple detail here and the beigey white color. And then this other color, this right here, is from the stash that I was gifted from a coworker. And it's a wool, silk, and mohair blend, I believe. It's really nice. It's very soft. And it has a bit of a halo to it, so it's really pretty. So I'm not going to cover and talk about that too much. It will go back there on my chair until I get done with these other ones that I'm really excited to talk to you about. Well, this next one you've already seen as a work in progress, and I am going to finish this really soon. It is for my mother-in-law. I'm dropping yarn balls everywhere. It's the second Koyamae pullover by Joanna Ang. Yes, it is the same one I'm wearing now, as you can see. So, this yarn is the Debbie Bliss Cashmerino Aran. This was also yarn that was part of the haul that I was gifted from my coworker. And, yeah, my mother-in-law has had interest, has spoken interest in a sweater from me. And I had all of this Debbie Bliss from that stash, and this pink color's not really like my color palette. This is about as much of a pink as you'll see on me. This very like dusty, almost, yeah, just like a really light pink, as about as pink as I get. So this was too much for me, but she looks really great in it. And I asked her what sweater she wanted, and she actually tried this one on when I had made it, and she really liked it. So she said, will you make me the one like that? And I was like, heck yeah, I had so much fun making this one. So I was actually really happy. And I didn't even tell her like it has to be such and such yarn weight because this is what I got. It just happened to be a pattern that would work with an Aran weight yarn. So it was just kind of the perfect storm. So yeah, I've been working on this one for a while, and I have Oh, let me tell you the needle size. Let's see. I can find it. I put my notes down for this one on the same place. Wait. No, it's not there. Never mind. Here we go. Yeah, Joanna Ang is the designer. I've been telling you guys her Instagram handle, which is Joanna Knits. The yarn is the Debbie Bliss Cashmerino Aran. My needles are 5mm, and I put down 5mm and 3.75mm. Oh, that's because 3.75mm is for the collar. Duh. So yeah, but mostly just 5mm needle, and I'm doing the size 5 for her. Yeah. So that's all those details, and I got both sleeves done. Yeah. Both sleeves are done. The cables stick out a lot more after you block it, but it's so pretty. And then I have probably like, I need to get to 13 inches before I start the ribbing, and I think there's like 10 inches there or something like that, so I'm almost done with the body. And then it will be gifted, and I will try to remember to ask for a photo of it on her once I give it to her, because I'm willing to bet this will be done and gifted to her before my February podcast, so yeah. But here it is for now. And I will say that this yarn is very, very soft, but it is so heavy. I have used probably, let's see, probably at least 12 skeins of this already, I think, if not close. And these are 50-gram balls, so there's 90 meters per 50 grams. It's pretty heavy. I don't think she'll mind, but it's not something that I can just bring somewhere and knit on because it's so heavy. So, but it's still a pleasure to knit on because the yarn is so soft. Although I'm not really somebody who likes to knit with thicker needles. I prefer smaller needles. I find it more satisfying to knit with. I don't know. We all have preferences. Pick up the yarn that I dropped. Second work in progress. And this next one, I'm really excited. I'm almost done with it, and you guys haven't seen it yet, but that's because I didn't talk to you guys about my typical stuff in December. So my next one is the Field Day Jacket by Ozetta. She's one of my favorite designers. I've only made 2 things from her already, but the first one was the, what was it called? Oh my gosh, how can I forget the name of it? It's her t-shirt that has the V-neck detail. I'll put it on the screen, but I can't remember for the life of me right now. But this is her Field Day Jacket, and I'll try it on because all I have left is one sleeve. The rest of it is done. Here's one sleeve. I'm gonna block it and this won't be as cinched, but I didn't want like a really big cuff, so I did do some extra decreases there, and I'll talk to you about that in a second. But and I dropped stitches. Here, I shouldn't drop now. Anyway, this is it, and I love it. I love it so much. So the idea behind this cardigan was I wanted a long cardigan that I can just, I don't know, it's a cardigan. I just wanted a long cardigan. I guess that's it. And I love Ozetta's patterns, so I picked out one of my favorites. And when I say long, I just wanted it to be able to cover my butt. So definitely got that. And I like drop shoulders, so it kind of worked out. I do, like I said, need to block it because it's not done yet, and this will lay a lot flatter once I block it. And the ribbing won't be as tight at the bottom once I block it. So, yeah. I knit this exactly to pattern, but one of my goals this year is actually for these videos to remember to say the yarn and the needles before I start talking about everything else in these patterns. So let me pause and tell you what the yarn is and the needles. So the yarn is another part of it's another collection of yarn that I got from my coworker. So it was more just free yarn gifted to me. And this is the Patton's Classic Wool Merino. It's a aran weight-ish, medium weight, whatever word you want to use. It's 223 yards, 400 grams. So, and the color is bottle green. So I would explain it as more of like a spruce color. It's like a dark green with like almost a bluish hue to it. I don't know. Just a dark green, and that is my aesthetic. I love greens, specifically foresty colored greens, so really happy with this color. And the needles are 3.5 millimeter, which is very, very reduced from what the pattern calls for, typical. But I did basically meet gauge. I think my gauge is still a little bit bigger than what was recommended, but if I would have went down even further needle size, I think that it would have been too dense of a fabric because it's already fairly dense. Yeah, so that's just what I had to use. I did a size medium, and I think honestly I could have done a size large, but I think that with blocking it'll be a little bit bigger. I'm finding right now that if I use the snap-on buttons, which I plan on doing, it's going to hug my body a little bit more than what I was expecting, but not in a bad way. It's just not what I was picturing exactly. So, but like I said, I think blocking will definitely widen it a bit. I don't know. We'll see. If it doesn't, it's okay. I think I'll still really like it. So, take this off because I have a bad habit of dropping stitches, and I'm sitting on the yarn. Okay. So, there is that. So those are all the whips for, like, projects that are prioritized right now. And what I mean by that is I have 2 other projects that are kind of reoccurring. Let me put my sweater back on while I talk to you. So you guys have heard about the Bruin scarf and the scrappy sweater that I'm working on. I have been working on the Bruin scarf as games, well, most of the time I add a row when a game happens. I haven't really worked on my scrappy sweater that much, but I'll show it to you anyway if anybody's interested. So, let's talk about the Bruin scarf first. Here it is, and you guys are probably tired of hearing me explain it, but Caitlin from the Cozy Moth Knits inspired me to do a hockey-related scarf. Well, she's doing a cowl, but I didn't want to do a cowl. I wanted to do a ribbed scarf. So basically did a ribbed scarf version of her idea of following a team and doing a specific stripe for wins and then a different stripe for loses. In this case, gold is a win and black is a loss. And I'm actually doing 4 rows per stripe because I counted how many games there were for the season, and then I figured out roughly how long I wanted it to be, and then 4 rows ended up being the perfect amount for each game. You know what I'm saying? Okay, so like I knew I wanted to be, say, 80 inches, and then I divided that by how many games there were, and then I decided that stripe needed to be that long, whatever that value is. Math. Anyway, it's turning out great. I need to add, I think, 2 more stripes. I think I'm 2 games behind, and there is a loss in that, so. I really like the pattern that it's coming out with. It's like the losses, knock on wood, are like single events, so there's not a loss stripe more than just one set of rows. So I like it. And this is actually a gift for a buddy of mine who is like the most hardcore Boston Bruins hockey fan. He got me and my husband into it, so yeah, this will be gifted to him when the season's over. And fingers crossed, it looks like they're going to be in the, is it called the playoffs with hockey? I don't know. They're doing really, really well, as you can tell, so yeah. So there might actually be some added length on this if they do make it for the Stanley Cup. Is that the name? I hope that he's not watching, because this is a surprise. I doubt he is, so. If he was, he'd be very disappointed in me not knowing these terms. So yeah, and I'm using Hobby Lobby Soft Stitch for both of them. And yeah, it's been really fun. So I wanted to show you progress on that. Oh, and also Caitlin, if you're watching, the Seattle Krakens beat them. I'm sure you already know that. You probably added your win stripe for that, didn't you? I didn't add my loss stripe for that. Not yet. So yeah, that's that. And then my other thing that I've been working on is my scrappy sweater, which basically any like worsted weight, Aran weight yarns that I have, I'm making into a sweater. And it's going to be a drop shoulder. And it's not blocked, so it doesn't look like much, but 6 squares will be the width of it, and then I'm just going to do it's drop shoulder, so it's just going to be a square with some rows taken out for the neckline, and then the back's going to be just a square, so that the front is lower than the back. And then I haven't decided what I'm doing for the sleeves yet. I don't know if I'm going to do just like stripes in the round after picking up the shoulder stitches, or if I'm going to do even more squares. I'm thinking I might try and do more squares, because what I'm doing is actually making it very patchworky looking. I'm crocheting the squares together once I get done with them, so might not be able to see very well, but this like edge right here bumps out a little bit. Maybe if the colors are lighter, you can see it there better. So you can see the 2 colors. Yeah, I just wanted to be really like scrappy looking and patchworky looking, so that's what I'm doing for that. And so I have 1 stripe done, and then I started on the next stripe. I think I'm either using 5mm or 4.5mm needles, and then the 5mm crochet hook to attach them. And that is that. That is all the stuff I've been working on. I'm not going to show it here today, but a while back you saw my long-term cross-stitch project got finished. I actually bought a frame for that, and I think that I'm going to find some fabric that matches it, or the frame, or like a neutral color, and actually sew edges onto it, because it doesn't exactly match the frame, like the width of the cross stitch project and the width of the frame, and it's not an even amount on either side. So I think there's more room on the left and right of it, and just a little bit of room on the top and bottom. And I don't want to have somebody block it, because framing is expensive, and I've gone this far creating this beautiful piece of work. Might as well add some more of my own hand craftiness to it. So if you guys know anything about how to sew on a border for like a cross stitch tapestry type thing, let me know. Please. I mean, I can Google it, but it's always nice to hear everybody else's experience with it, if they have experienced something like that. Any like tips or tricks or anything like that would be really appreciated. And I also just like reading comments, so so I guess right now I'm talking about like future plans. I have 1 acquisition, which is simply just the full skein that came with the advent calendar, and it's this right here. It's called Under the Mistletoe. It's a stripy, I believe it's sock yarn, because it's 80% blue-faced Leicester and then 20% nylon. It's a 2-ply. So I may or may not make socks. I don't know. I'm starting to grow a collection of single skein things that I don't really know what I want to do with them yet. I'll figure it out one day, which is something that I've not really It's not something that I usually would do, but as time goes on and this hobby develops, it's kind of just naturally happened. I think I have this, including this, 4 single skeins of hand-dyed yarn that I don't know what to do with. 2 of them from Kelsey from Knitting Nakabi, 1 of them from, I don't remember the name of the dyer, but I got it from the spinnery in Gatlinburg. I showed it in that video, so if you're curious, it's in there. And then now this one. And I don't know what to do with it, but I'll figure something out. So that's the only acquisition that I have. But as far as future plans go, like that, I want to figure out that frame thing that I was talking about. And then also, once I finish these whips, I really want to finish the Dark Moon wrap. I want to really focus on the Scrappy project, the Scrappy sweater. And I think that's really, I don't have any like concrete plans as far as like new patterns that I want to buy. But like I mentioned several times this episode, I have that stash of yarn that I was gifted, and I really want to work through some of it because it's some really nice yarn. And there's some wool in there. I was gonna grab it. Let me go grab it because I want to show you. So I have this wool. It's called Lamb's Pride. It's a single roving bulky weight, and I really want to use it. I really like the way it feels, and I've been wanting to do color work as of recently. So I think I'm going to try and do either a colorwork sweater or hats. I don't know. I have a crap ton of this black. So if I do a sweater, it's going to be mostly in this black, and then this would be the contrast color. So let me know if you guys know of any bulky weight colorwork sweaters. God, it's going to be heavy, isn't it? I don't know. The yarn itself isn't very heavy. It's going to be warm is what it's going to do. It's 85% wool and 15% mohair. So, I don't know. I really want to work with it, though. So, if you have any pattern recommendations for, like, color work stuff that is bulky to... This could also pass as a aran, I think, or a worsted weight. Just let me know in the comments. And... yeah, that's all. It's really popular right now, and I really enjoy watching the YouTube podcasts that have their like make nines or plans for 2023. I think it's really cool, and it's just kind of like a new content that's like new seasonal content that people are making, and I really like watching them, but I'm not somebody who makes concrete decisions for that far of an amount of time for a whole year, because I know that I will not stick to them. My knitting aspirations and intentions change a lot. It's very much based on what I just feel like making in the moment. That's why when I buy yarn, I don't typically buy them unless it's for a specific pattern, because that yarn is probably, if I don't buy it for a specific pattern, it's going to sit in my stash, and I'm not going to think about what to make with it because I'm thinking about another pattern at a different time that uses a different type of yarn. I don't know if that makes any sense. Basically, I just follow my gut when it comes to picking patterns for the time being, and I just finish that pattern out and move on to the next. So make nines and knitting intentions for a whole year typically are just a waste of time for me personally, so I don't do them. But I really like seeing when other podcasters make them, and then like at the end of the year they kind of talk about what they did end up making or what slipped through. I think it's really interesting to watch, but you will not get that content from me. So I did want to talk about that, and then just something I did want to do. You know, it's a new year, you can do new things. It's like a nice timeline to start a fresh something. So I thought about a really interesting like segment or bit to add on to the end of my monthly podcasts, And I don't have a name for it yet, but it's basically going to be, I'll have 1 to 3 people that I saw either on Instagram or YouTube that have really brought me either joy or inspiration, or yeah, just basically those two, either joy or inspiration. And I have 2 Instagram accounts that I have seen for since the last podcast that have really brought me joy. One of them is joy. Well, they're both joy, but one of them's joy specifically, and the other one is really inspiration. So the first one is the Instagram tag is he knit, and his Instagram is literally just the commissions that he's made of the frog pattern, like Stefan here. If you don't know, I made a little frog. His name is Stefan. I don't think my camera's focused on it. I don't have autofocus, so I try to stick in one specific location. Anyway, he commissions these frogs that he makes, and he makes them sweaters, and they're all so adorable, and they literally just make me so happy every time I see him post a photo. So, and if I can figure it out, I'm gonna get a screen grab of the Instagram profiles that I talk about during these segments and just like have a scroll of their profile. So hopefully I'll figure that out. If not, they're a bunch of frogs and you should go check them out. And then the other, this is more of a inspirational but also joy recommendation. I say recommendation. I think you should go check them out, but really it's just for me to share what I've been looking at that's new to me. Anyway, this one on Instagram, her name is Bronte Swanik. Sorry, that's probably wrong, but I'll put the handle down here, and then she's also on YouTube. I think it's also just her name. And her Instagram, what really inspires me for it, what really inspired me about it is her outfit of the day, I guess you could say. She has a really cute aesthetic, and it's kind of a way of dressing that I aspire to have. Whether or not I actually reach that aesthetic, I don't know, but it still brings me a lot of inspiration when I see her photos of her outfits, and it has a lot of knitwear in it. And her YouTube, she has knitting videos, but she also does planner videos and book videos, so definitely go check her out. She's awesome. So yeah, those are the 2 people, I guess you could say, that have been bringing me a lot of joy and inspiration from this past month. So let me know if you guys have encountered any new to you Instagram or YouTube accounts that have brought you joy or inspiration. I'd love to hear about them, so that maybe that'll be the one that I talk about next month because you brought it up to me or something. Yeah, so that's it for today, I think. So thank you guys for watching. I don't know why I have this random knitting needle and I'm waving it around like a wand. Thank you for watching and for sticking around. Oh, I did also want to say that I am going to continue to stick to this format for my 1 video a month, because that's what I mentally can stick to, and it's the amount of content that I can create and feel like I can keep up with it. And yeah, so anyway, I wanted to add that into the admin stuff and I forgot it, even though I wrote it down, and I just skipped over the bullet point. Thanks for watching. I hope you guys have a wonderful upcoming month, and I will see you guys in the next one. Take care. Bye.